Boca Ciega Bay plays host to a multitude of creatures, from the very small to the very large. With miles of coastline, seagrass beds, spring-fed caves, and much more, this aquatic preserve is an ideal place for dolphins to congregate. So what makes Boca Ciega Bay the ideal spot for all creatures big and small? Let's take a look at the grand scheme of the Bay Area so that we can better understand why coexistence is key to survival. Boca Ciega Bay is but a small part of the larger Tampa Bay, which is connected to the Gulf of Mexico. Spread over 19.9 miles, Boca Ciega Bay is host to mammals, reptiles, countless birds, and fish. It was not always like this. In the 1950s, coastal development did immense damage to the seafloor with the creation of seawalls and near-continuous dredging. Dredging is the process of collecting tons of seafloor and moving it to a different location. It causes unseen damage to organisms living on the seafloor, such as fish eggs. Designating the area as an aquatic preserve in 1968 allowed Boca Ciega Bay to naturally heal. Today, Boca Ciega Bay and surrounding areas are alive with sea life that might have otherwise disappeared. Did you know that mangroves have special leaves that extract the salt from the water to provide the tree with fresh water? They are called sacrificial leaves, and they take in all of the salt and then turn yellow and fall off into the water. Dense mangroves make up a small portion of the shoreline, providing indispensable habitat for numerous species of birds, reptiles, and mammals. Shrimp and crabs call mangrove root systems home because they offer natural protection from predators. A wide variety of fish species take refuge in the mangrove roots as well, which also serve as nurseries where fish can reproduce safely. Have you ever been to the beach and seen one of these things washed up on the shore? Did you ever wonder what it was? It's a seed pod for mangrove trees. According to the University of Florida, 9 species of snakes call mangroves home. Turtles, manatees, birds, and yes, even alligators love to rest in mangroves, which means mangroves are super popular hangouts and are fundamental to protecting the richness of our local wildlife. Hidden under the sparkling surface of the sea, the mangrove isles around Boca Ciega Bay are lined with submerged oyster beds and seagrass meadows. Seagrass meadows are the richest, most diverse habitats on Earth after rainforests and coral reefs. Seagrasses are the main food for manatees. Today, manatee populations live on various kinds of local seagrass to make up the enormous amount of food they need to eat on a daily basis, up to 10% of their body weight. Seagrass meadows also provide protected nurseries for the young of countless creatures. Did you know that manatees are protected by law? The state of Florida has designated special manatee refuge zones for manatees only, meaning no swimming or boating in these distinct areas. Sand dunes are an important part of a healthy coastal ecosystem as well. Sea oats are native to the region and are a protected species. In other words, you can't pull them up and you can't chop them down. Sea oats are not only an important food source for small creatures like beach mice, but they also help prevent erosion of sand dunes during a hurricane. Some conservation groups, however, are making a concerted effort to restore the natural dune habitat through group planting events. Boca Ciega Bay is an example of how conservation efforts can make a difference. Protection means setting limits on coastal development and disturbances like dredging. Whether you call it home or are simply visiting, always keep in mind that this is the permanent home for dolphins, manatees, and all of the creatures we love to see in the wild. So far, we have been introduced to Schnoz and taken a tour of beautiful Boca Ciega Bay. We know that the dolphins love these shallow waters, but who else do they share it with? Dolphins may be the #1 draw to the Sunshine State, but manatees are a close second. Just how many manatees do we have? What do they eat? How do they spend their time? Let's take a look at the lifestyle of the beloved manatee, also known endearingly as the sea cow. Imagine sailing the high seas aboard a galleon alongside the likes of infamous pirates or noble naval sailors. It's the 15th century. The world is open for exploration, and you're keen to make your mark on history. Now, picture this: a docile face with thick cheeks covered with long whiskers staring up at you from the seas, a creature unlike anything you've ever seen before. Dark gray, sometimes mottled with moss, rotund, this curious creature is beautiful in its own way. It is easy to think that a manatee comes straight out of mythology. Mariners on long voyages often mistook the humble manatee for mermaids. Can you believe it? The first written encounter with a manatee in North America came by way of Christopher Columbus, who complained that they being mermaids, weren't as beautiful as the artists had made them out to be.
Yesterday, when I was going to the Rio del Oro, I saw 3 sirens that came up very high out of the sea. They were not as beautiful as they are painted, since in some ways they have a face like a man.
Here in Boca Ciega Bay, the West Indian manatee, also known as the North American manatee, weighs between 450 and 1,300 pounds and is typically between 9 to 12 feet long. Cruising at 5 miles per hour, the manatee can live up to 50 years in the wild. In captivity, one manatee known as Snooty lived for 69 years. Manatees look the same regardless of age. Wouldn't it be nice to look like a 20-year-old when you're 50? Manatees are mammals and therefore must breathe air. They also give live birth, produce milk, and have warm blood. Their closest land relative is the elephant. Can you see a slight resemblance? As a mostly herbivorous creature, the manatee feeds mostly on seagrasses in shallow waters where the sunlight can reach the seafloor. On any given day, the manatee must consume up to 10% of its body weight. That can mean up to 140 pounds of grass per day. Manatees prefer water temperatures that are 72 degrees Fahrenheit or above. In the winter, when the water in Boca Ciega Bay is cooler, manatees will seek out warmer waters such as natural springs. They may also travel to areas around power plants that discharge warm water, like the one in Apollo Beach. In the summer, they explore coastal waters with their young. Baby manatees are known as calves, just like their dolphin counterparts. For 2 years, calves live closely alongside their mother until they have gained enough mass to be an unlikely target for predators. As with all marine mammals, one of the top threats to their livelihood is habitat destruction. Though Boca Ciega Bay is thriving and has come a long way from the reckless environmental destruction of the 1950s, the manatee is a threatened species even here due to the loss of seagrass meadows. The manatee is protected by the Marine Mammal Protection Act to ensure that their population returns to healthy levels. Efforts to repopulate the bay with natural seagrass are ongoing and provides hope for the future of the majestic manatee. Up next, we'll talk about ways in which you can help keep Boca Ciega Bay a wonderful place for the manatees, dolphins, and all of the creatures that call it home.